I am Miss Tennessee Earth 2022, Gracie Pfaff. Digital marketing consultant, nonprofit founder, public speaker, and model, call me a go-getter. Growing up, I was always determined to help others. In 2013, I founded my nonprofit working to prevent hunger and malnutrition through sustainable agriculture. Planting school gardens and partnering with female farming communities, I'm working to help end hunger one garden at a time. 1 year after founding Harvest 107, at just 13 years old, my family and I moved to Haiti for 5 years to continue this mission. It was an eye-opening experience that changed my life forever. My time abroad taught me 2 additional languages, what malnutrition and hunger looked like firsthand, the effects of climate change in developing nations, and what sustainability truly looks like. When I'm not working on my nonprofit, I love trying new things and learning new skills. I recently took up rock climbing as a way to have fun and stay fit. It's something that my sister and I can do together every Monday afternoon, and let me tell you, it is a great workout. Even though I love to stay busy, I try to take time for self-improvement every day and use that confidence to model and compete in pageants. These activities help me stay positive and inspired, which is why it's such an honor to represent Tennessee at Miss Earth USA, the state where my nonprofit originated. Every day, I work hard towards the goal of preventing hunger and malnutrition across the globe. But more than that, I hope to inspire others through my actions and encourage giving back not only to people, but also our planet. Sustainability and environmental protection are 2 of the most important issues facing our world today. They're also 2 of the most complex, which is why it's so important to have young people involved in the conversation. This is why I joined Miss Earth, to use my voice to raise awareness about these issues and help make a difference. I want to inspire other young people to get involved in their communities and make their voices heard. There is so many ways to do your part, and everyone can find something they're passionate about. You don't have to be an expert in environmental science or policy. You just need to be willing to learn and take action. Through my nonprofit work, environmental education, and public speaking opportunities, I will continue to be an advocate and fight for a healthier, more sustainable future for our country as your next Miss Earth USA.
Hello, everyone. It's Adrian from the Pageant Project with you, and my special guest for today, as you heard, is Gracie Pfaff. Gracie, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Should I just call you Go-Getter?
Go for it.
Gracie, the Go-Getter. I mean, you certainly do seem to do a lot. So let me ask you the really difficult question first. When someone asks you, what do you do? How do you answer? Because I've talked to a few people such as yourself, and I see the bio, I see what they're doing, and I'm like, I've read so much stuff, I don't know where to begin. So when someone asks you, what do you do? How do you answer that question?
I suppose sometimes it depends on the context of where I'm meeting these people, but usually it starts with a little bit of everything. But I tend to lead with my nonprofit work because it is what I am most passionate about. Giving back has always been a huge part of my life. And I mean, my nonprofit's my baby. I have to show it off.
Well, absolutely. And your baby is fascinating. That sounds a bit odd to say, but your baby, Harvest 107. Is that how you say it? 107,
Yep.
not 100. Okay. I have to ask the very obvious question. I couldn't find the answer, so I apologize if it was written somewhere. But why Harvest 107?
I get this question all the time, and now I feel like I should write a blog post about it. But
Okay.
it started, I was 12 years old when I founded Harvest 107, and I went to my mom and I ran to her and I said, Mom, I want to start a nonprofit. This is something I'm really passionate about. And so she was, behind me all the way, and it meant a lot to me. But I sat down and I thought, well, what do you need to do to start a nonprofit? Because what 12-year-old knows how to do that? And I thought to myself, well, I guess a name would be helpful first. So I know what I want to do. Let's just come up with a name. And so I had a couple keywords that I wanted to get in there, and harvest was one of them. And then my mom and I were just kind of, as mothers and daughters do, we were almost bickering about it a little bit, like, oh, this sounds great. No, it doesn't. Yes, it does. and we were going back and forth. It was probably 2 full days of us troubleshooting. And so I finally looked over, and I had seen or heard of people going and finding the closest book and opening it up to a page and using that as inspiration. And so I was homeschooled. And so at the end of my school table was a Bible, because I started my morning off with a Bible study every morning. And so I grabbed it and I was like, let's just try it. And I flipped through the pages and it sprawls open, and it was on Psalm 107, and it was in the title of it was "In Grace of God's Goodness," and I was like, "Well, that's starting with my name, so that's gotta be a pretty good start." And I keep reading, and it was, "God quenched the thirst of the thirsty and filled the bellies of the hungry, and we're all about ending
Wow.
hunger." And so it
Okay.
just totally felt meant to be. And then this past February, I was doing a data collection for our female farmers that we're working with in Haiti, and one of the questions was, on average, how much are you harvesting per season, and or every time that they're harvesting, which is usually about every 6 weeks or so.
Mm.
And when I did the math and I was averaging it, they were producing 107 pounds of produce every time they were harvesting, and so it just really felt full circle.
That is slightly scary. It's almost like
I know.
it's almost like you retconned it very conveniently. So that's the story behind 107. I never would have guessed that, but that makes a certain amount of sense. I have to say, look, I've been in pageantry. I don't know if it's long as you have. I lose track. But as I was telling you before, I've done somewhere north of 300 interviews now, and sometimes some of the girls can exaggerate their accomplishments, or when they say they're starting a movement, it's just a hashtag on Instagram. And I'm like, okay, that's better than nothing, but we could probably do better than this. And then you at 12 years old, actually start a genuine, what do you call it in America? Is it called a 501c? Is that what it, okay.
501(c)(3), yeah.
Okay. And you actually did this at
Yeah.
12 years old, and you didn't do it for a pageant because
Nope.
pageants weren't on the radar then. So, what sort of person does that? That's a question I've been dying. No, no, that's the question I've been dying to ask you since I read your story, and this is why I wanted to interview you, because it says a lot about a 12-year-old to want to do that. But then I was watching one of your other interviews, and you said you wanted to start volunteering, and because of your age at that time, you were knocked back by many organizations because
Mhm.
they told you too young, and then you went, okay, well, I'll show you. I don't know if you said that in your head. Then you started your own nonprofit. Um, where did that spirit of giving? That's what I wanted to ask you, because most 12-year-olds, and I've worked at an all-girls school, and I've worked with a lot of 12-year-olds, they're on their phone, on TikTok these days. It used to be Instagram, and they're just talking about themselves all the time, boys, clothes. And here you are starting an actual nonprofit. Where did you, not where did you get the idea, but how do you have that spirit of giving in you? That's the really important question I wanted to ask you.
I mean, I feel like it was just kind of a gift given to me. I've always had a heart for giving, but growing up, I did see my parents, even though growing up, I mean, we didn't have that much, but we were more fortunate than other people. And seeing my parents giving back, no matter what their financial status was, giving back to other people who were less fortunate than they were, whether it's friends or a homeless family, they were always willing to do what they could. And I think that really instilled in me at a young age that giving back isn't some miraculous thing. It's a part of your everyday life, that
Mm,
you do what you can to leave the world a better place. And growing up, that was just, I was the kid who would give my ice cream money to someone who forgot it, or same with the book fair. And I mean, they could have wealthier families than I did, but I felt bad in the moment that they didn't have what they really wanted or needed, and I just wanted to give back somehow. And then my family and I would go and volunteer at homeless shelters and things like that. And so then when I was 12 years old, I think that's a really vital age. You still have that childhood curiosity about you, but
yeah.
you also you're starting to get a sense of what the world is like. And so you're kind of in this really great medium. It's a happy medium where
Mm,
you have this opportunity where you can do anything that you want to, because you still have that belief in yourself. You have that belief in those childhood fantasies, and you're able to make them a reality over the next few years of your life. And so, 12 years old, I wanted do bigger, better. I wanted to help people in a major way. And I offered to volunteer with several different organizations. I think it was about 13 of them, and they all told me I was too young. And I knew that just because I was 12 years old, that didn't mean I couldn't do anything. I could totally help. And so I decided, you know what? I'll start one. I'm not seeing anyone else doing what I want to do, so
Mm.
let's create it.
And I mean, that's an amazing story. Can you give us a timeline? So it's been what, roughly 9 years? So
Yeah, we
next
just
year will
celebrated our
be
ninth birthday.
congratulations. Next year, so
Thank
next year
you.
you're going to be coming up to your 10th. And I don't know
Yep.
if that's dawned on you, perhaps, that at the ripe old age of, you'll be 22 then, I think.
Hmm.
You're 21 now. At the ripe old age of 22, your nonprofit will be celebrating its 10th birthday.
I know.
What's the timeline been? Because sometimes, a decade feels like a decade. Sometimes a decade feels like 100 decades, and sometimes a decade feels like 5 minutes. What has it felt like for you with those 9 years that have gone by?
It's felt like all of the above. Some days I feel like, oh, I just started this, a couple years ago. And then some days I'm like, it's been almost a decade. Like it's been a long time. Like, but then there's other times where that experience comes in handy because you're like, I've been in this game for 9 years.
Mm,
I know what I'm doing. I have my system set in place. But being 12 years old, you just do what you can. And it was a small start, but we really just started by my mom was just asking people to, hey, just Gracie has this on her heart. Will you just, keep her in your thoughts and
mm,
uh, support her on this journey? And a lot of people did. And a lot of people were like, oh, this is just a phase. Like she'll be happy when she does one little garden project or something. It wasn't enough. One of our friends came back to my mom and she said, I'm actually working at a new school just outside of Nashville, Tennessee. We're in Franklin. And she was like, we really want a school garden. We reserve 50% of our seats for low income families. And so you have no idea who's paying tuition and who's not. And so I had the opportunity to help build and create the garden. And I taught a 12-week after school course on sustainable agriculture, uh, specifically organics. And so I worked with the kids after school every single week. And because these were the kids whose parents were working two, three jobs to make ends meet. And then at the end of the courses, the kids were able to take home whatever veggies that they were able to grow, and it's still feeding 24 families on a regular basis. And I mean, it's been 9 years, so it's really
wow.
amazing to see the impact. And then just a year later, moving to Haiti and doing it full time for 5 years, and then now coming back and we're growing it internationally again. It's been a whirlwind, but it's felt like forever and no time all at once.
On the subject of Haiti, I got you to send me through some videos, so let me bring them up now. I'll just mute them. So can you talk us through, because to me it was really important. As I said, a lot of people talk a good game, but I really want to show boots on the ground and pageant queens, well, literally getting your hands dirty, as you can see in that one, because otherwise all people see is just the glam and they think you're talking about it, but you're not actually doing it. So talk us through what's happening here.
So this is at a children's home in Haiti, and so they were taking in kids who were either abandoned, their parents died, they were just on the street, and
Wow.
so they were taking in, kids from all over the city, and they were giving them a safe place to live, and so they wanted to help supplement their diets because the typical Haitian diet is just rice and beans, and while that can
Mm,
be filling for when you don't have a lot of resources, and that helps get you between when you can eat again, it's not you can't thrive off of that. That's not enough nutrition for a human. And so they wanted to help supplement the kids' diets with some vegetables. And, that's what we specialize in. And so here we had just planted the garden. And so there were some seeds coming up and we brought in some plants because, sometimes kids can be a little impatient to watch things grow. And so I would pre grow some plants and bring them to plant so that within the 6 weeks of the course being over, we could have our farm to table snack. And so actually all of our boxes are made out of recycled pallets and it's all recycled materials. And then that's mostly compost. And so I'm just teaching the kids of what's going in there, what's going to be growing, getting them excited about it. A lot of
mm,
kids, people assume that kids hate vegetables. And while a lot of times that's true, um, I've witnessed that you can actually find quite the opposite, especially with cherry tomatoes. We would see kids who would put in the effort of actually growing the food, and they were
yeah,
far more likely to enjoy it because they know what went into that. And so we
yeah.
had kids who were obsessed with candy now turning to cherry tomatoes instead of it. And so it was a really great experience. And we have projects like that all over Haiti.
And it's a really special, it's one of my favorite classes to teach of urban gardening.
Yeah, I have some cherry tomatoes downstairs, and when you grow them yourself, I have a 5-year-old nephew, and he's not huge on vegetables, but when you grow them yourself, it's he goes downstairs and he harvests all the beans, he picks the tomatoes, and he's happy to eat them because he feels like he
Exactly.
contributed to it. So what veggies are actually going in here?
I think I saw some aubergine or eggplant for the
Yep.
American vocabulary. I'm surprised I remembered that. So we have some tomatoes growing in there. I know we grew lots of lettuce, and then we try to keep in whenever we're working in a new community of keeping vegetables there that would be found in a typical diet if they had the
Yeah.
resources to get those vegetables. Because we don't want to show up and be like, hey, you need to change your whole diet because that's not
Yep.
going to work. That's not sustainable. And so, but the only thing we try to introduce is kale because it is similar to other greens that would be in the diet, but it's far more nutritious. And we find that it's actually really easy for them to work with because it easily incorporates with sauces or salads,
Mm.
things like that. You can cook it down. And so that's another thing we really try to introduce. But we've got some seeds in there. I think I saw some bell peppers and tomatoes, some of our key favorites. And we usually throw in a few herbs and things and talk about pollination and why that's so important. The kids always love that because they always grab a little leaf and love to rub it between their fingers and smell it or make tea out of it.
Right. Do you have any issues with, I mean, I love the fact that you don't tell, other cultures that you should eat this because I think that's very disrespectful. So I love the respect of going in
Absolutely.
and trying to incorporate yourself with them. Do you struggle with pests at all? Because I got to say, once you, like, I don't know,
Absolutely.
when you start growing things, you start noticing, oh, there are aphids here, there are insects here, there's slugs, there's snails. So do you struggle with any pests, birds, and then what do you do about those?
We dealt with that a ton in Haiti. In when we were in Tennessee with our first project, it we had to deal with a whole different set of pests and
Yeah.
issues. Well, aphids are pretty much everywhere. You can't really avoid them for the most part unless you do something about it. But in Tennessee, we had to deal with deer coming up and trying to eat it. And in Haiti, you
Okay.
don't have that problem.
No.
And And so what one of the things though that we teach is how to do it all organically, mainly because organic vegetables, we are getting so many pollutants in our everyday lives, whether it be from air or water. I believe that you don't need to add more of that into your body through food.
Mhm.
And there are ways to grow food organically. And so there are solutions to all of these problems. And also in developing nations like Haiti, it is not cost effective or even possible for many families to purchase fertilizers and
Yeah.
pesticides. And so showing that they can grow things from home without having to spend all that, because that could be sending their kids to school or putting additional food on the
Mm.
table. And so we'll teach things like how to make fertilizer out of other plants or out of kitchen scraps and how to keep pests away with garlic and cinnamon and cayenne pepper and things like that. So we have our little tips and tricks like that that we're just teaching everywhere we go. And it really was effective with our farming community in Haiti, one of our farming communities, and their main issue was pests. They just couldn't control it. They couldn't afford to get pesticides, and
Yeah.
we were like, "Well, you don't need them. It's actually better for you if you don't use those. Here's a few things you can try." And so they tried
Mhm.
it, and they told us that their farms completely transformed after that. That they were able to produce so much more food because they weren't losing so much to all of these pests and things. So it's been really successful, and it's been really fun to learn because it's really like doing a bunch of science experiments.
It's interesting because you mentioned kale, and I used to be a raw foodist, so basically a vegan. And kale was one of the, well, still considered to be one of the superfoods. The only issue with
Mhm.
kale was that it's very good at leaching everything from the soil. So if you grow it in toxic soil, then the kale becomes very toxic itself. So you do have to be careful. And obviously, there's a lot of allergies. I know you yourself, if I'm correct, you have, well, being American, you call it an aluminum. In Australia, we call it aluminium. You have an aluminum allergy, don't you?
I do. It's been difficult to navigate, but I finally have it down. I didn't find out about this allergy till I was 16. And so developing an allergy, I looking back, there were little key signs of having that allergy, but just little things that you would totally overlook during childhood. Um, but now it's all added up and now it's a very severe allergy. And It's borderline life threatening. It's not
Oh,
fun.
wow.
But once you know how to manage an allergy
Mm,
like that, it becomes so much easier. And honestly, it's helped me become healthier.
mm.
Just knowing all of the metals that are in our everyday lives and products almost kind of grossed me out. And so I was like, this is making for a much cleaner life for me that I can really appreciate. So it's been an up and down roller coaster of an allergy to overcome, but I feel like in the end, it's definitely come out on the plus side.
Can you give me an idea? Now, I know aluminum is in some deodorants.
Mhm.
What have you, because you will know this much better than me. So what have you found it in? Because I bet there's going to be some things people would never have guessed that there was aluminum or other metals in them.
True. And the number one thing I get from people is deodorant, because that's most people know that
Yeah.
because a lot of companies have been coming out with aluminum free, which thank goodness. I wish more brands would start doing that. Makeup, that's a huge thing, especially as a pageant girl of we wear makeup. That's a thing.
Mm.
And so I had to go through with my mom and we went on a website that told you if stuff has aluminum in it or not. And we go through, I had to throw out my entire makeup case.
Ouch.
And so, yeah, I could only keep I think it was like a mascara and maybe an eyeliner. And I had to completely scrap it and start over and figure out what I could and what I couldn't use and what aluminum is in. For example, I can't take acetaminophen. That is that's essentially just a pill of aluminum for me. I break out in rash from head to toe, quite literally. I had dengue fever when I was in Haiti, and I took an acetaminophen not knowing that it was aluminum, and it made it worse. So
Yeah.
if you are allergic to aluminum or sensitive to it, don't do that. I'm just gonna save you. And then, yeah, but yeah, makeup was a huge thing, and because you learn that it's not only just like the aluminum powders or alumina, um, which derives from aluminum, and but it's dyes, those aluminum lakes, but they call it different things. They relabel it so you don't
Yeah.
see that aluminum word. So you really have to read and figure out what it's in. And then also food containers. So many of them are lined
Yeah.
with aluminum. And so I either have to have someone pour it out for me or use gloves or something. Like you have to navigate it.
Uh,
And then I obviously can't drink out of the can.
So is eating out, because when I was a vegan, one of the things I found, and this was a while ago, it's improved since then, but it was difficult to go out to eat because you wouldn't know what had meat in it or what had meat products in it. So it might be a salad, but it might have a dressing that had dairy on it, so et cetera, et cetera. How difficult is it for you with the aluminum allergy? I mean, you already talked about containers and things like that, because it could be the food could be all right, but it might have been cooked in a container, which I guess therefore then makes it not okay because it might have traces of aluminum in it. So how difficult is it to just go out and eat and enjoy yourself like a normal person?
I've learned over the years that it's not as difficult as I thought it would be, which is
Mhm.
great. Most places that are doing like major cooking is like they the aluminum's on the very inside of the pan, and so there's usually ceramic coating over the top or something. So
Yeah.
that's usually completely fine, and I normally don't have a problem with it. I do the best. All of my cookware is cast iron. That's
Mhm.
how I can pretty much eliminate any potential issues that I could have. And so I of course love it. Like if I go get fajitas at a Mexican restaurant, it comes out on my cast iron, and so I know that's fine. Um, but yeah, it's been fine as long as I usually will ask, hey,
Mhm.
could this potentially have aluminum in it? Or if I'm somewhere where they serve like tortillas or something that's in foil, I'll just say, hey, do
Oil.
you mind
Yeah.
just leaving it out? I'm allergic and I won't be able to take it. I won't be able to use that. And people are usually super accommodating about it because it's not that big of a deal. It's usually just some foil, or I just don't order something that might, like a dessert that might have dyes in it. I just stay away from it.
I do like how you're so polite about it. You have basically a life-threatening allergy, and you're like, "Do you mind taking out this thing that might kill me if it's not too much hassle? But if it's too much hassle, it's okay." Because I met a lot of people who are a lot less polite about it, and normally have a lot less severe of a
Hey,
reaction
it's a
than you.
rare allergy. I'm not gonna make anyone's life more difficult than it has to be.
Oh, but just for, I feel for the hospitality staff sometimes because of people they have to deal with, and sometimes
Right.
people are very entitled, and something like gluten. I'm not going to laugh at people who have gluten allergy; it's terrible. But just food preferences, not even allergies, and they get really, really angry, and it's terrible because those people are
Yeah.
there to do their best, and it's not their fault. They're not
Yeah, we're all
trying to kill
people
you.
at the end of the day. Kindness matters.
Absolutely, well said. Now we have a couple of other videos here. I think this is more a scene. Or why don't you tell me what's going on here, or what are we looking at here?
This is Kenskoff. This is in the mountain region of Haiti. It's just a little bit, north of Port-au-Prince. It's one of my favorite places to go. I would always go up a couple of times a month, and we have worked with several farming villages up there. It's just absolutely beautiful. It stays about
Mm.
75 degrees year round, and
Oh,
it's wonderful. And I would take my dogs up there. We'd go for a walk, and you can pick wild blackberries. Um, but one thing that I love about the mountains is the sense of community that's up there. These farming villages,
mhm.
they all work together. They have co-ops and things. And so we've been able to partner with several co-ops where we're working with 50 plus women, and they all are kind of
Wow.
intertwining and coming together. They have a community seed bank that they're harvesting seeds from their produce, and then they're able to store them and then use them and share throughout.
Mhm.
And because they're planning of like, hey, we're all in the same area, so we're going to have some competition for market. How about you sell these things? I'll sell these things. Sure, some things can overlap, but let's create for a better economy for our community together. And that's what I really love about it.
I mean, it looks absolutely beautiful. It looks like a
It's
scene
gorgeous.
out of Jurassic Park. I wouldn't be surprised if I just saw, Tyrannosaurus Rex lumbering along in the background. Let's
You'll
move
see lots
on.
of goats.
Not quite the same, but okay.
Not the same.
Uh, what about this?
This was from quite a journey, actually. When we first went to Haiti, we were working at an orphanage, and there's my mom and sister in the front of a truck. But we were at the orphanage, and there was a baby that was abandoned. It was found in a pile of trash, and someone brought it into the orphanage and said, "Hey,
Mm,
this baby is starving. It's probably going to die." And they took it to every hospital nearby, and they said, "There's nothing we can do. We're gonna be surprised if this baby makes it through the night." And
wow.
so we were just determined, like, hey, we've got to do something for this kid. There's got to be a malnutrition clinic around here that can do something because he was literally, I mean, skin and bones.
Mm,
But also he had a type of malnutrition called kwashiorkor, and so it actually causes where the proteins in your body start to break down, and so you actually start to swell. And so he was sticks and bones, but he was also swelling in certain areas, and so that was an
mm,
interesting thing that I had never seen before. And being so young, I think I was 13 or 14 at the time,
wow.
um, it was a really big learning experience for me. And so we were able to get in contact with the malnutrition clinic in Canaan of Haiti. And so that was about 2 hours away
Mm,
from the orphanage. And so we got in the van that the orphanage had. And so we start on this trek, and then we get to an impasse where there's a bridge. So you have to go essentially over two mountains, over several bridges, and then go into this community that's very remote to get to this malnutrition clinic. And so we get to the second bridge, and it's impassable. Like we can't get over it, not with this vehicle. And we're essentially freaking out because we have this baby and we've already come so far. And it turns
yeah.
out that um, there was the local pastor whose daughters run the malnutrition clinic was driving by and picks us up,
Oh, wow.
and we were able to make it to the clinic. And they said, "Hey, we don't want to get your hopes up. We're going to try everything that we can, but this baby might not last through the night. We just want to set your expectations. He's in very critical condition." And so,
Mhm.
but he did make it through the night, and then he made it another night, and then we come back 3 months later when he's done with his treatment, and he is a fat, healthy, happy baby, and he gets to come back. And I believe I just got news that he was adopted a couple years ago. And so
That's
uh, it
amazing.
was a it was a really interesting story of, you learn a lot in times like that where you're seeing such severe malnutrition and things, but it also taught me, some people hear that story and they think, oh, what kind of parent would leave their son in the trash? Um,
Mm,
but what it really taught me was at a young age, still being very curious, was I can't even imagine how that mother must have felt. She must
was
have felt so hopeless herself that she knew that
yeah.
there was nothing more that she could do, and she couldn't simply watch that. And so that's really been that was kind of a physical representation of my why, of why I'm doing this work, why malnutrition prevention is so important, and why encouraging people to grow from home or grow locally is vital for our communities and for our planet.
I think it's a very good point you make that a lot of people would leap immediately to judging, but they don't see the fact that if you had to give up your baby as a young mother, obviously you're not in a good place yourself.
Exactly.
And it still boggles my mind that because at that age, most young girls and boys would be complaining that they didn't have the latest iPhone, and you're out here learning about what the actual malnutrition looks like. We have one more video here. I'll just bring this up.
I love this video.
Now, I watched another interview, and I think you were explaining something about this was the first time that these women, they were farmers, right? And this was the first
Yes.
time they had gotten, I don't know what you call these, but this was the first time they got these garden implements.
Yes. So, this farming community in the mountains of Haiti, like we just saw that beautiful landscape, most of these women had actually been farming for their entire lives, and it was it was generational farmers here, and so a
Hmm.
lot of them even had to drop out of school at a very, very young age to help support their parents on the farm. And so we were able to give out our family farm packs, which essentially is everything that they need to either start or improve a garden. And so one thing that we kept hearing was tools. And so we usually give small hand tools, but we decided to give this group of women pickaxes, and
Hmm.
because they were experienced farmers and they all had decent amounts of land. And so that's a lot of
Yeah,
work. Um,
yeah.
and they were so grateful that this is literally them singing and dancing in gratitude. And they told us that in all of their years of farming, they had never owned a pickaxe. They'd all done the work by hand. And they were just so grateful. They literally started singing and dancing and just saying thank you over and over again. And it was so beautiful.
I can't imagine, Gracie, what this feels like. For you, you started this as a 12-year-old, and you see these people who break into spontaneous song and dance over something that most Americans, Australians would just take for granted. You know, you go to your hardware store, you pick up an axe or whatever it is, and it's all well and good. But how does it feel for you at such a young age to be having such a visceral and real impact like this?
Oh, I definitely cry about it. It affects me
Good.
emotionally so
Because
much.
it makes me tear up. So I'm like, I hope you do it as well. It's not just me.
Oh my gosh, no, you should see, I just sometimes I just bawl crying, and I'm just so grateful that
Yeah.
I have the privilege to be able to do this work and help others, but also I consider everyone that we work with family, so it feels like
Mhm.
I'm just helping out my neighbor or brother or sister in need, you know? Um, it's beautiful getting to know every person that we work with, and even though we've been able to directly help thousands of people, I've gotten to know these people. I've gotten to speak to them. My team works with them on a weekly, monthly, daily
Mm.
basis. And it's beautiful. And it gets me excited for all of the impact that's to come for the next 10 years.
I love the fact it's such a good reminder that no matter how tough that we might have it, that there are other people doing it even tougher than we are, and it just really brings a healthy perspective back to it. So if people want to get involved, you have your website here. Let me just bring it up here. So harvest107.org, is that
Mhm.
the website there? So let me
Yes.
just, where is this? Hide. Just give me a second. So if people want to get involved or support, is that the best
That's the
way?
best way to do it, or go to our Instagram. We're just at Harvest 107. We keep it simple. But yeah, and there you can find a ways to donate. You can donate to our Family Farm Pack program, which is what I was talking about earlier, where we're providing all the materials you need to start or improve a current garden. We mainly focus on education because I think that's the
Mm,
key to achieving sustainability long term, honestly, is learning that information because there's such a lack of know-how of how to be resourceful and use everyday things that you wouldn't normally think of to grow food. And
mhm.
so I think that's a really beautiful thing. That's my favorite part of what we do. Sitting down with our agronomist, creating our curriculums together. It's wonderful. I love it. And then we're also expanding into Central America in 2023. I'm so excited. We've been in the works for this for a long time, and so now people can give to that. And that's been super exciting. And then, if you want other ways to reach out, whether it's hosting a fundraiser or volunteering somehow, My contact information is on our contact us page and on our Instagram. So you can reach me there. I'm just Gracie at harvest107.org and shoot me an email and I'll respond. I go through my email like it's social media.
A sign of an entrepreneur right there, someone who checks her. Because I do that too, but most people don't do that. So I have to ask, because obviously you're in the lead up to Miss Earth USA. And let me just bring this up again. So if you were fortunate enough to take out the crown, what 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 impact would that allow you to have above and beyond the amazing impact you've had? I mean, what plans would you have? I mean, I think it would be amazing to take a crown that has such international recognition to places such as this, and to make people aware that, you know, pageant queens actually do get their hands dirty and do some amazing work. But for yourself, if you had that crown placed on your head in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, what are your plans with it? I got to ask.
That would be such an honor. I have so many plans for when I take home that crown, and I would really love to start with a school tour of going to schools across the US and speaking to students of all ages, talking about my story, my reign, and honestly, I would love to work with classrooms and use recycled
Mm,
materials and teach them how to plant things and showing that you can care for the environment, grow food from literally anywhere. One of my favorite things to do is use plastic bottles and recycle them and use them to, plant. And you can grow lettuce
mm,
and herbs, short rooted vegetables and things. And so I would love to do that all across the US and then implement, these school gardens. They really make a huge difference in communities, not just for the students at the school.
yeah.
Gardening is therapeutic. It's nutritional. It's good for our environment. It's just like the perfect project. I'm so passionate about it, but I could go on for so long. But I would love to just implement this in as many schools as possible across the US because I think so many communities need it. That's like my main goal is to just widespread this. And I think with the Miss Earth USA organization, it aligns so well. We care for the environment, we care for people,
Yep.
we care for beauty with a purpose behind it. And that's what
Mm,
really drew me to the organization in the first place was how mission minded they
mm.
are.
It's I mean, learning to garden is probably the fundamental way in which we connect to the earth, isn't it? And I think there's
Exactly.
a lot to be said when, I think it was Jamie Oliver over in the UK, he took vegetables into school, and I think they were kids were about 6, 7 years old, and he was asking them, "What is this?" Like he would bring up a tomato or a carrot, and they weren't able to identify what those were because we've become so detached from the earth and from getting our hands dirty. And look, there are a lot of people in the US and the UK and Australia, especially at this time, doing it tough because cost of living has gone through the roof. But even if that's not the case, I think learning for the kids to get involved like that and to be excited to eat something healthy, because you also had the T-shirt or the jersey was it veggies first?
Okay, but first veggies. We have
But
our
first,
cheese and tanks. Yeah.
I love
It's my
that.
favorite.
Uh, Yeah, but it's not just having an impact, it's having a magnified impact because it's one thing I think to do something. I mean, I'll let you speak about it, but this has a huge flow-on potential, obviously. If you change the destiny of one community or even one child, like the child you were talking about, it's not just one life. I mean, this has a huge flow-on effect, doesn't it?
Exactly. I always call it the butterfly effect is when
Mm,
you're truly impacting the life of one person, there's no way you're just impacting that one life. That person is going to either make a difference in their own community and reach several people, and you've inspired them, or they're going to take what they've learned from you and they're going to teach it to their friends, to their
yeah.
family, to anyone who will listen. And so then you're starting to see it. And then each person is going to do that and it's going to keep growing. It's going to keep making impact because people are going to see how it's positively changing their lives. When we were working with our first school garden, I had a girl come up to me. We were working, every week in the garden and there were tomatoes finally ready to harvest. And she told me, she looked at me and she said, I've had tomato soup and I've had ketchup, but I've actually never had a fresh tomato before.
Yeah.
And that day she was able to try one for the first time.
Yeah.
She was able to harvest it, take it home, and she brought a huge paper bag to her mom filled with veggies that were recycled from someone's grocery run. And it's a beautiful thing, and so you see that, and then we're teaching people, okay, well, hey, you have that tomato. Now here, you can take you can slice it open, take those seeds out of it, and look, you have 100 more tomato plants. And so
Mm,
it's really a multiplying effect, and that's what I love so much about our work is that it's not only growing, but it's the education behind it, and so that can take it even further than just planting a garden and saying good luck, because I think anyone
mm.
can plant a seed in the ground, that's natural instinct almost. And so,
Yeah.
but the key is in how to sustain it, how it's benefiting you, the nutrition behind it. That's what makes this work important.
It reminds me of that phrase, each one teach one. So I think that's very applicable in this. I just want to keep talking about this, but we probably should move on. I was fascinated by this. Um, we probably should talk a little bit more about pageants. So I'll remove this for a second. Let me ask you the easy question. How did you get involved in the crazy world of pageantry to begin with? Because obviously you have a lot of other stuff going on. It's not like you just had nothing to do with your time. So you're like, oh, I'll enter a pageant. So how did you get involved in pageantry?
Growing up, I never thought I would get into pageantry. I watched things like Miss USA and Miss America occasionally with my grandmother, and I was in awe of these beautifully tall, gorgeous women standing on stage so confident. But I never expected to be one of those. I just thought, it's like you watch anything else on TV when you're 5 years old, and it's just something entertaining, fun, inspiring. And I was, I think, 17 or 18 years old, and I was really looking for a way to get the word out about Harvest 107, my work, through giving back. And so I was hearing about how pageant girls were actually able to amplify their cause
Yeah.
through pageantry. It was a platform that they could give back on an even greater level. And so that inspired me to get involved because I was like, Harvest 107 is already doing great work. I want to raise awareness. I want people to know about what we're doing. I don't want it to be, small. I want to grow this
Mm.
worldwide. I want everyone and their brother. I want it to be a household name. Harvest 107. That's the place to go. Um, and so that's why I signed up for pageants in the first place. And who doesn't love a little bit of glamour, right? So I was like, glamour with a good cause behind it. You can't beat that. And so I signed up and I just kind of fell in love with it. And here we are a couple years later. And now I'm competing for Miss Earth USA, and I couldn't be more excited.
Are there any nerves at this stage? I mean, I've lost track of the countdown. I think it's 15, 16, 17 days, something like that. I mean, you seem so busy. And very often people who are busy don't have time to get nervous because they actually worry. They're worried about, I don't want to say bigger things, but when you're helping save lives and changing the lives of so many people around the world, the pageant almost seems like, why would I get nervous about it? Like I'm doing the work. I know I'm prepared as best I can be. So do nerves creep in at all, or are you just so busy you're like, yep, it's
I
all
mean,
under control?
I'm human, so I occasionally, get a little anxious, but honestly, I interpret it as excitement because if you
Yeah.
think about it, nervousness and excitement, those are the same feeling,
Mm.
but one has a negative connotation, one has a positive connotation, and I would much rather feel the positive part of that. I would
Excited.
much rather just
Yeah.
be excited. And so I feel prepared, I'm ready, and I'm excited for the experience overall and to see what difference that we can all make together. I believe that collaboration is more important than competition, that we come
Mm.
together and we can make a greater difference together. So I'm very excited. I feel ready and prepared. Even though I've come into it a little bit later than everybody else, I feel like I've just fit right in from the start.
Well, I think coming to something later has its own set of advantages as well. And as for the nervousness and excitement, that differential, that's exactly what I tell some of my clients because they go, oh, I'm so nervous, I'm so nervous, so nervous. But I'm like, how do you not know that you're excited? Like
Right.
you do want to feel a certain kind of way, like when you're about to walk out on stage. It'd be probably a bit wrong if it's dead calm. Um, let me just ask you before we move towards a close. I saw one of your Instagram's um, reels down here. That's why I'm looking down here, and you put up a quote, and it really struck a chord with me. I just want to ask you about it. I don't know who it came from. You're suffering from self doubt, while others are intimidated by your full potential. So first off, who wrote that quote?
I don't
And
know. I kept trying to find it and no one claimed it. I can't find who wrote that, but the second I saw it, I saved it because it struck a nerve with me. I was like, I need this posted on every wall in my house.
Mm. I mean, I guess you could claim it for yourself if you can't find any, you can't find the
But
person.
yeah,
But I think it's just you're suffering from self-doubt while others are intimidated by your full potential. Have you found that to be the case at all? I mean, when you're 12 and you start a nonprofit, I mean, I have to imagine there's some level of judgment. Not everyone's on board. Some people would be like, "Oh, she's just doing this to get attention," or as you said, some people thought it was a phase, and obviously it's not. 9 years later, it can't possibly be a phase. Have
it's a very
you?
long
Have you?
one.
Well, it could be a long phase that lasts your entire life. But you're suffering from self-doubt while others are intimidated by your full potential. Why did that one strike a nerve with you? Because it struck a nerve with me, but I'm curious as to why it struck a nerve with you.
Growing up, starting a nonprofit at 12, there were so many people who doubted me, so many people who said that I couldn't do it. People who were close to me told me that it was just a phase, that I'd get over it, that this isn't anything. And I knew that this was my path. And so I couldn't ignore that, regardless of who was saying that to me. And it caused me to lose a lot of friends. But I feel like that also taught me what true friendship looks like,
Mm,
that people who support you will support you through everything, regardless of whether or not it's something that they think is the best for you. Because at the end of the day, only you know what's truly best for you in your life. You have to follow your heart. And so, but because of that, losing friends, etc., having people who doubt me, leaving horrible comments at the end of blog posts and videos, you you can't help but wonder sometimes, especially as a teenager, is this the right thing? Am I actually making a difference? And then you have to be there and pick yourself up and say, you
mm.
followed this path for a reason. It's in your heart. Go for it. You can do it. You have this incredible potential out in front of you. Don't backtrack. And so that's why that quote really sat with me, is that when those moments of self-doubt creep in, because we're human, we all get those days where you wonder, am I doing enough?
Mm.
Am I doing the right thing? But then you have to think about those people who are getting in your head. They're not seeing what full potential you have, or they do, and it's intimidating. I mean, I've gotten that before. I've had people tell me, "Hey, you're intimidating." And I'm like, "I don't think so. I don't think I'm intimidating. I think that I am goal driven, and I
Mm.
have a vision for my life and what I want to leave a mark in this world." And so it's just a little reminder that you have to ignore the people who don't believe in you. You have to close the comment section. You have to move forward, because at the end of the day, it's you, it's your life, and it's your mark on the world. It's your legacy.
I think just back to that intimidation comment, I can see where people come from because I think what happens is when you're around someone who is young, goal driven, passionate, and has found his or her purpose in the world, I think very often it can make other people who haven't found that or are living life a bit smaller, make them feel like, oh, that person is doing something amazing and I'm not. So rather than trying to find my own path, because not everyone has the same path, but rather than trying to find my
Right.
own path, which can be very scary, very hit and miss, you fall over as much as you succeed, they lash out and
Hmm.
attack. So I don't know if it's intimidation. I think it's more you maybe cause them to reflect on themselves and maybe they go, oh, maybe there's something else I could be doing. I don't know. That's a guess. But maybe you are incredibly intimidating. I don't know. But you don't seem intimidating to me at the moment. Um, let's switch tack just for a sec. You had a Instagram reel that got a casual 1 million views.
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
going I'm going to play it and then and then you can just talk people through what it's about. So here it is. I'll just play it through. Here we go.
Breaks down on the way to work. I hope your girlfriend recognizes that you don't love her. I hope your mother calls you out cause she's sick of it. I just hope that you hurt her like I did.
Okay, so what happened here? So I mean to give some clarification. So you didn't just go in a car, I'm assuming, and riff that out. So you are a singer songwriter as well, and it looks like you've lived life like all of us have and had some disappointments. But you had this song. I understand that you wrote it, you performed it, and then you got 1 million views. So what was the story? What was the story behind this?
I was just playing guitar in my room one day. I usually try to take at least half an hour a day to play music because I think it calms me, helps get out my emotions. But I also, when songwriting, uh, I really like to take inspiration from stories I hear or
Mm.
movies or shows and things like that because I think it's a fun spin to put on it. And so I think I was in a grocery store parking lot or something, but I heard this girl and she was crying about a failed relationship and that it's just that he had hurt her so badly and that he had done all of this horrible things that he was living his life and did not care one bit. And so I just kind of took inspiration from that and I was like, I wonder if through my music I could at least bring a little bit of light to this girl's situation and have something she could relate to. Maybe she'll find it. I don't know if she ever did. It got a million plays, so I guess there's hope. And so I just decided, you know what, hey, like she said something along the lines of I just hope his mom recognizes how horrible he's being, or it was something along those lines. And so I was like, that would be such a great song lyric of like, I hope your mom calls you out because she's sick of it. And so I just wrote the whole song based off of that. And so it's definitely not the nicest song. It's a little bit sassy, but it was so fun to write of being in someone else's perspective of hurt and just wanting someone to feel something on the other side of that so all of that hurt wasn't completely wasted. And so I just came up with it, I wrote it, I played it for my family and they were like, honestly, that's awesome, we love it. And so I sat in my room and I recorded the demo version, and so I was just playing it in the car one day listening back to it, and I was like, because I like to listen for edits and things of how to improve.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I was listening to it back and I was like, you know what, this is like a fun song to jam out into the car. And so I just hit like no hands record or something while I was just singing along to it. And so I posted on the internet, just not thinking anything of it. And then it immediately got a few thousand views. And then 2 weeks later, which I had forgotten about it at that point, essentially, I'd posted probably 10 other videos, but then I was posting almost
Yeah.
every day. And then I see it hit 250K. And I'm like, what happened? And then
What's
I wake
going
up
on here?
the next morning, we're at 500,000. Like, what is going on? And then we finally hit a million, and I just about lost my mind.
It's funny, these things can take on a life of their own because I had two TikToks that didn't hit a million, but they went about 300, 350,000. And they were the silliest. Like, I don't need to tell you about algorithms. I'm sure you know about social media algorithms, but sometimes you just look at this stuff and you go, I don't know how this works. Like, I just put up some, you sometimes put so much work into a video and you think it's so meaningful and impactful. 2 views, no likes, no comments. And then you just rock out in your car to a sassy song that you wrote. And then it's got a million views and you're like, I don't
How?
understand. I'll go with it, but I don't understand. I just want to
I,
play it again because I think it's so
Breaks
fun.
down on the way to work. I hope your girlfriend recognizes that you don't love her. I hope your mother calls you out cause she's sick of it. I just hope that you hurt her like I did.
Okay, so what's the title of this song, Gracie? Does it have a title?
yeah, it's like I did or hurt like I did, depending on however you want to say it. But I have a demo version. I wanted to work on it more, but I had some health issues in the beginning of this year that prevented me from it. And then I got caught up in, work, social media, and pageantry and things like that. And so I'm hoping to get back into it soon. I have a lot of people ask me to release it.
Uh, Gracie, if it got a million views and you have all these people, I saw the comments underneath. Every second comment is, when can I get this? When are you releasing this? Is it on Spotify? Is it on iTunes? And you're like, not yet, not yet. That's a sign. You want to roll with it. When a door opens, run with it. But I think it's a nice song. It's a playful song. It's not quite,
Exactly.
it's not an
It's not
angry
mean.
song.
No, it's not
No,
malicious at all. It's completely just riffing off of what people feel. It was fun. It was a fun song to write, honestly. It was one of my favorites.
it sounds catchy. Just before we get to the final 10, is there anyone that you want to give a shout out to for supporting you along your journey, pageant or otherwise?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. I would love to give a shout out to my family, of course. I feel like everyone has to say that, but I really do because my family not only believes in me through pageantry, which was a complete 180 of what I was doing every day. I mean, you saw the videos of me getting my hands dirty in the
Yeah.
garden, and so they've supported me no matter what through that. My sister, she comes and helps pick out my gowns and fix my makeup and whatnot. And so they've supported me through starting Harvest 107. So they are my number one supporters, and I really could not be the person I am today without them. And then my director, Nick Blaze, she has been amazing. I've only had this title for about 3 weeks now, I think it is. I've lost track by now, but she has just welcomed me into the family, and I am so grateful to have her on this journey to Miss Earth USA, because everyone I've worked with so far has been so incredible. And my pageant coach, Jules, I love you so much. You have helped me really understand the true meaning of mental prep, and I couldn't have done it without you.
Perfect. Okay. Well, let's get through to the final 10 questions. I have your song stuck in my head now. Must be why it got 1 million views, because you've discovered an earworm. Okay, question 1. What is your favorite word?
Pugnacious. It's a weird word, but like combative almost in a way. But I think it has a more positive ring to it. I associate it with fighting for what you want and for what you believe in,
Mm.
rather than just being argumentative.
I've never had that given. I do know what that word means. It reminds me of this old saying, it's not the dog in the fight, it's the fight in the dog. That's what it reminds me of.
I
Good
used to
word.
use it to describe my sister. She's so brave, and so that made it my favorite word, of seeing her moxie.
Pugnacious. Number 2, what is your least favorite word?
Failure. I don't believe in failure. I believe in learning opportunities. I believe in growth. I believe that sometimes it's not failure, sometimes it's your circumstances, and sometimes it just wasn't meant to be. It was the wrong timing. So you weren't failing, you're one step closer to succeeding.
Number 3, in life, what gets you excited or what turns you on?
Probably, I love a good sunny day. I think that's the perfect way to start a day, of waking up and having that energy that's already in the sky in the world and has me get up and say, hey, let's kill another day. Let's do it. Let's crush these goals.
And question 4, what turns you off?
Probably like negativity and complaining. Um, I think that there's always a silver lining no matter what your situation is. And so there's always, sometimes you got to vent, but I
Hmm.
think that there's a beauty in finding the positivity in everything, and putting positive energy out. I think that's really important, as people don't recognize that sometimes when you're putting out negative energy, it's coming back to you. And so when you put out positive and you're speaking uh, what you want to happen, that's what's going to happen for you.
Question 5, what sound or noise do you love?
I love just the sound of voices, just like singing, whether it's birds or people, just the sound of music in everyday life, whether it's someone humming or whatnot. I think there's something magical about it.
And question 6, what sound or noise do you hate?
Oh, that sound when windows shut and they squeak. It sounds like nails on a chalkboard. It sends shivers down my spine every time.
Got that one? My car window on the left side does that. Okay. Question 7, if you could have any one superpower, what would you pick and why?
That's a good one. Probably the superpower of, like, I don't know what it's called, but when you can travel anywhere, teleportation,
Yep.
because then I'm like, that would save so much time on all these flights.
What's the longest flight you've ever been on?
I mean, it's really not that long, but 9 hours, that was quite a long one. That was hard to endure.
You're talking to an Australian, just remember.
Yeah,
And your
so
idea of a long flight, 9 hours, I'm like, I don't have much sympathy for you. I was over in Texas in July. It's like a 20-hour flight, and that's short.
I won't complain. I won't complain. I've been in
Well,
longer drives, so it's fine.
yeah.
I can't complain too
Uh,
bad.
you can complain, just no one will be listening because you said you don't like complaining. Question 8, what job other than your own would you most like to attempt?
Ooh. When I was growing up, I always wanted to be an architect, so I think that would be really fun because I love art and I love puzzles and creating things.
Interesting one. Question 9, what job would you definitely not like to attempt?
I don't think that I would enjoy doing something under the water. I'm not a huge ocean fan. I get freaked out when I step on something weird in the ocean. So I don't think I would thrive at that. That's my sister's territory. She's the one who's going to be a marine biologist.
So when you go to the beach, I don't know if the beaches you have are similar to us here, and you walk in and seaweed brushes against your leg and then wraps itself around your ankle. Are you like one of those people? And I am here, I'll fully admit to it. I love the beach, but I'm phobic of what I can't see. Do you jump whenever something brushes against your leg because you don't know
A
what it
little.
is?
I've gotten better about it, but in Haiti, the waters are completely clear because it's the Caribbean. And so when I went to
Oh,
the
okay.
beach there, I could see everything, and I was totally fine with that.
Yeah,
But in
yeah,
the
yeah,
US, when it's murky water and you can't
yeah,
see, I get a little freaked out. I get a little spooked.
yeah. I don't like what I can't see. If it was clear, I'd
Right,
be fine. But when it's brushing against my leg and I don't know if it's a giant shark or a piece of seaweed, it
right.
doesn't do.
You're it's unwanted adrenaline.
Oh, I had an American friend over here, and she's petrified of sharks, and she has a shark app that apparently tracks sharks every and of course in Australia, I don't know how many sharks there are, but she'd even
That's
be like on
hilarious.
land and using her shark app. I'm like, you'll be okay. We're on land. It's like, yeah, you never know where they're coming to get you. It's like, oh, okay.
Not on land.
Uh, no, no. I mean, they're bad here, but not that bad. Final question: if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. I need to start asking people that. I would love for him to hear, I would love to hear him say, um, job well done. You listened to what I told you. Um, I think my whole life I call it listening to my heart, but I mean, from a religious standpoint, it is like God's mission for my life. There's a
Mm.
path set out, and so I'd love to just hear that I fulfilled that to the best of my ability. And I know that sometimes we all trip along the way, but to hear you did it, you completed what you were supposed to.
In my previous interview, I was talking to Bailey a little bit about religion, and I won't delve too into it because I know some people get a bit touchy about it. But I told her I've been spending this year reading the Bible, the entire thing from beginning to end. So in 14 days, I would have read the whole thing. And it's interesting just because the part I'm going through, it does talk about leaning into God's plan for you. And I've had some difficulties accepting that only because it's like, oh, I'm going to set out what I'm going to do. And just learning that maybe you have to let go and trust a higher power. It's been
Hmm.
tricky, but it's been very, very impactful. And I think you're a very good example of someone who has listened to your calling or your
Thank you.
purpose. And I think it's amazing the work you've done. And it's been amazing chatting to you. So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for coming on.
I appreciate it. It's been wonderful talking to you.
And I'm going to keep you on the line whilst I hang up with the audience. So thanks to everyone for watching, whether it's live or on the replay. And we will speak to you next time. Bye for now. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Sorority Access is now open. So if you'd like to join an amazing group of women and learn how to be the most powerful, confident, and impactful queen possible, head to thepageantsorority.com. I'll see you there and see you in the next video.